All right, Ryan, predicting the in-conference schedule for the UConn Huskies on this Thursday, Ryan. Thursday, September 15th. It's getting really close now. I mean, we're down to less than 2 months until they open the season. Ryan, we're going to go ahead and get right on into it. Let's start out with, and you tell me if I miss any. How about Northeastern on November the 10th?
Northeastern, that's out of a conference, but that will
Okay.
be their first game on the schedule. Yeah.
All right. So the ones we didn't cover, I don't think we went over Providence, December the 2nd.
Yeah, Providence first in conference opponents, Providence. That is on December 2nd. UConn have won all 31 meetings against Providence. The Friars only lost 5 out of the 47 meetings all time. I expect UConn to win this one pretty easily. Providence, though, they didn't lose anybody from the roster last year. They have 3 seniors, so the chemistry might be pretty good. Providence might be an underdog team, kind of a dark horse to watch in the Big East this season, but I don't think UConn will have a problem with them.
Yeah, I don't either, Ryan. Providence, yeah, I expect this to be an easy win for UConn. Rolling on down the schedule, and we have another Big East game, Seton Hall, and that's December the 21st, and that's in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, Seton Hall made the NIT last year and actually made it to the championship game, but they did lose to South Dakota State. Seton Hall also has all their players returning from last year, including junior Lauren Park Lane. I'm sure you recognize that name or remember that name. Senior Katie Armstrong, senior Sydney Cooks, that's another big name. Senior Ariel Cummins, and senior Andre Espinoza Hunter. So they got some pretty good players at Seton Hall. And this game, I have UConn winning, but I think it might be a pretty close game between Seton Hall.
And then you rolling down the schedule, Ryan, and you have, again, I'm predicting again Seton Hall. You're right. We had some pretty fun episodes last season.
Yeah.
With them games because Seton Hall kept them close there for a while. I remember in the first half of some of them games, but I'm going with UConn again against Seton Hall. So Providence and Seton Hall. You roll down the list here, Ryan. And next up, you have your next Big East. So they have, they have about, they have a lot of Big East teams here. They have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like about 10, 11, 12 games in a row. This is amazing. This is going to get very interesting, this episode just in itself. Let's go ahead and predict, Ryan, Creighton. And that's December the 28th. So right after Christmas, right after the lights come down, you have Creighton in Nebraska.
Yeah, I only played Creighton 5 times, and of course, UConn's won all 5 of those matchups. Creighton made it all the way to the Elite 8 last season. I kind of forgot about that until I was looking at it last night, but they did make it to the Elite 8. They lost to South Carolina, of course, so that was a tough opponent to get in the Elite 8, but Creighton didn't lose any of their players either from last year. They have 4 seniors this season. Might be a tough one for UConn, but I'm still going to go with the Huskies in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with another W against Creighton. Creighton, a very good team. Again, a lot of these teams are. I'm sure that's something that UConn Huskies fans don't really want to see, especially because they're in conference. You want to always win that conference, right? So you can punch that ticket to March Madness. Next up, we have Marquette, Ryan, and that meeting is December the 31st. I'm going with UConn again.
Yeah, Marquette also made it to the NIT tournament last season and lost in the 3rd round. They're going to be led by junior Chloe Murata this season, senior Carissa McLaughlin, and senior Lauren Van Clunen. I think UConn will also win this game. I'm going to go with the Huskies and stay undefeated in the conference so far through December.
Okay, January the 3rd, Butler in Indianapolis, Indiana, 7:00.
Yeah, start off January with Butler on the 3rd, and Butler, they only won 1 conference game last season, finishing 1-27. I think UConn wins this one pretty easily. I don't really expect that much out of Butler again this season. It was a long season for them last year. I expected them to have another long season this year.
Xavier, January the 5th, Cincinnati, Ohio, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 2 days later they traveled to Xavier, and also Xavier didn't have the best season last year either, only winning 7 games. I don't think this one will be quite a big of a blowout as the Butler game will,
Mhm.
but I think I have UConn winning pretty easily in this one.
Okay. And next is DePaul, and that's in Stores, Connecticut. Um, January the 8th. You know what? Well, I'll go and yeah, I'm going with the win in this. But I have a kind of a surprise prediction here as we get further down the schedule. But let's go ahead and focus on DePaul, January the 8th.
Yeah, DePaul made it into the first four last year into March Madness, but they did lose to Dayton on that matchup. But the Huskies avoided a major upset in their first matchup with DePaul last season, only winning by 2 points. DePaul is led by seniors Sonia Morris and Deja Church. Hopefully, I'm saying that one right. I have UConn winning this one as well, but it might be a pretty close matchup again.
St. John's, January the 11th. So far, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So far, I have 8 wins stacked, 8 wins
Yeah.
in a row. I don't know about you, but that's what it's looking like so far. Your prediction, January 11th, St. John's.
Yeah, St. John's also didn't really have the best season last year, only winning 12 games. They don't really have that of an experienced team this season, or they do it. Excuse me, they have 5 seniors. They are a pretty experienced team. But despite the experience, I'm going to go with the Huskies as well in this one.
Now, just make sure we consider this, and you tell me. I'm sure you agree. We're going through these predictions, assuming we know it's hard for any team to get through a season perfectly healthy. Okay, but we're assuming that all these players into the roster into 2022 and 23. These are all of our predictions, assuming every single player on this roster stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we mentioned before, it's impossible to predict injuries, and of course, you never want to predict any
Right.
injuries, and you always want everybody to stay healthy, and
Mhm.
assuming all the coaches are going to be there as well, along with all the players. Yeah, but I mean, it's so hard to try to predict any injuries from happening, and hopefully everybody can stay healthy, but we all know that's just not the reality of how sports works. But
Did,
yeah, just going off of everybody staying healthy.
did I read you off Georgetown yet? You said a win.
I think Georgetown, it was the next one. We just left off of St.
All right.
John's.
St. John's. Okay. Georgetown, January 15th.
Yeah, a team that only won 10 games last year and fell to UConn the first round of the Big East tournament. Georgetown seems to have a fairly deep team this year as well, also having 5 seniors. I think UConn stays undefeated in conference play.
January 19th, Seton Hall. You know what? I'll go with the win, but since it's in South Orange, New Jersey, I'm just predicting, just for the heck of it, I see a close ball game here.
Yeah, I think it will be too, playing for the second time in the season. UConn's 49-1 all time against Seton Hall, winning the last 35 matchups. But like I said before, Seton Hall has all their players returning. They have some pretty good players, some pretty good seniors. I think this is a trap game for UConn. I think UConn
Ooh.
is going to lose their first conference game to Seton Hall in New Jersey.
Oh, you have them losing one.
I do.
Usually that's Phil saying that. So everyone don't get mad at me this time, Ryan. That's on you. And then you have to end the streak of Big East teams, you have Butler January the 21st. Falls on a Saturday, and that's 12 o'clock.
Yeah, Butler visits UConn 2 days later. I think this is another easy game for UConn to win. Like I said, I just can't really see Butler competing in any of their games this season.
Okay. And then I have a win there. And then you turn around and you have Providence, February the 1st.
Yeah, I think you missed one over. I think the next one is to end off the month of January. I think we got Villanova.
Villanova. Okay. No, that's not. I'm looking here at the column, though, Ryan, and it has Big East next to every team. So maybe I don't know. We'll have to, we're on the UConn podcast here. So they're going to really jump on us for this. I'm on the official UConn Huskies website, and there's nothing beside Villanova that says Big East.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at
I don't know. Did Villanova, again, they will be able to help us after this show is over. Did Villanova move out of the conference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at ESPN here on my phone for the Big East Conference, and it still has Villanova in. So, I mean, I never saw anything during the offseason.
Okay. All right. It may just be a mistake then by the UConn Huskies website. I'm not too sure that we went over Villanova, our prediction, but we will cover that one just in case we missed it on the last schedule episode. Villanova, January 29th. Oh, man. You know what? Villanova, that's a tough team. That was one of the most tough teams for UConn last season. Although UConn was injured, we understand. They were limping a lot during the regular season. I'm going with UConn.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one's going to be a pretty big game and a pretty close game to finish off January. UConn hosts Villanova, of course, so it will be in stores. Nova made it into the second round of March Madness last year, losing to a good Michigan team. Nova, they have a fairly young team, only one senior in Brianna Hurley, but returning this year, they have junior Maddie Seagrass. She was very good last season. I think UConn wins this game, but I expect it to be a pretty good game.
Okay. And then you have Providence, February the 1st at 7:00.
Yeah, second meeting of the year against the Friars. I think Providence is going to have a better season than last year. I think they have a pretty deep roster, but I think UConn wins this matchup as well.
February the 8th, Marquette in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have UConn again.
Yeah, UConn's 14-0 all time against the Golden Eagles. I think they win this matchup pretty easily against Marquette.
And Georgetown again. That one's in D.C., Washington, D.C., February the 11th. I have UConn.
Yeah, UConn 44-2 against Georgetown, winning the last 32 matchups. I think Georgetown improves their record from last year as well, but I think the Huskies win this matchup.
February the 15th, another Big East game, and that's Creighton.
Yeah, Creighton comes to stores for the second matchup of the year between the two teams. Like I said, they made it to the Elite Eight last season. Both their games may be fairly close versus UConn. The Huskies have also never lost to Creighton. I don't think they will this year either. I got UConn winning again.
You know what? That is the website needs to get updated because you're right. Now the game against Villanova, February 18th, I see it says Big East.
Good.
So I thought for a minute Villanova just disappeared out of the conference and we never knew about it because they don't really send out notifications. I don't understand that, but you always tell me, Phil, they never send out notifications for our lady teams. They have to get on that more, right? But Villanova, Pennsylvania, Ryan, I'm going Villanova in this game, Ryan. Pennsylvania, the fans are going to be there. Crowd is going to be full of energy. Villanova in a close ball game.
That's a good pick. The Wildcats beat UConn by 3 last season. I think we all remember that game. Maddie Seagrass, I think she's going to have another amazing year for the Wildcats. I picked UConn to win the first game at home, but I think they're going to lose their second conference game of the year in Wildcat country.
St. John's, February the 21st, and I have them winning that again.
Yeah, I also have UConn winning against St. John's pretty easily, I think.
And the last two, DePaul, February 25th. DePaul gave them a ride last season. Man, this is tough. Just because maybe resting some starters, maybe not. People look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm going with DePaul in this game. February the 25th. Again, close game, Chicago, Illinois. I'm going, at least I don't have UConn losing any at home. I don't think. I'm just going with DePaul. That's my pick for this game. February 25th.
Yeah, I'm going with UConn in this one, but DePaul did play UConn pretty closely last season. So I think both games will be pretty close. Those games against DePaul should be pretty interesting.
And then Xavier, February 27th, and that ends the regular season, it looks like. February 27th on a Monday. The time is to be announced, and they end the season, Ryan, versus, so Connecticut is home versus Xavier. I have the Huskies winning the finale.
Yeah, I got UConn winning the finale as well, and I think we both picked them to win two or to lose two conference games, both away games. But I picked them to lose two. I think to Seton Hall and Villanova on the road. I think the Big East, it's going to be pretty difficult this season. I mean, their conference schedule as well. It seems to be pretty difficult. I think we both picked them to lose a couple games, but it's going to be really exciting because kind of the word around the Big East is kind of just like they play, UConn plays these weak opponents. But I think this year, Seton Hall, Villanova, I think a lot of these teams are going to have Creighton as well. I think they'll be pretty good, but I think a lot of these teams are going to improve their records from last season. So I think we're going to get some pretty big matchups and some pretty close games in the Big East.
Yeah, that does it. So ultimately, I have the UConn Huskies as Big East champions, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that you agree.
Yeah, only losing two games which I picked, but I think they'll win the Big East pretty easily still.
And that's there we go. So we're looking forward to March Madness already. There you go. Without Paige Beckers. So that's that it's a big bold prediction, but again, it's kind of not, because again, I'm not saying it's better when Paige Beckers is sidelined, but I think you understand the history of this team. I think they will definitely see, assuming everyone stays healthy, I think they would definitely see March Madness. I really do. But now, and I understand we have a whole regular season to get through, Ryan. But it's just very interesting to think about what March of 2023 holds without Paige Beckers.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because they really haven't had a fully healthy team in 2 years, because last year, the whole season, it just seemed like somebody was out dealing with the sickness, dealing with the injury. So it never really seemed like they had a full, complete team last year. And it only seemed that way for maybe the first couple of games in March Madness. And it still seemed like then something just wasn't right. Paige Beckers wasn't really fully healthy. I think of a lot of us came to that conclusion. And then, of course, Dorka Juhas going down in the Elite Eight, I believe, of last year. So all of last year, it just seemed like somebody was out or somebody was doing something the whole season. And then, of course, to even before the season that begins this year, they're going to be without Paige Beckers. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they battle through that again this year. They're going to have to overcome a lot of obstacles, just like last year, I believe. So it should be really interesting. But like I said, I think the Big East opponents are going to really increase this year. I think UConn's going to have some really close games they're going to have to overcome in the fourth quarter.
How about a couple comments, Ryan, before we cut it short on this Thursday, as this week comes to a close? I know, shout out to the Las Vegas Aces. They can actually wrap up the finals tonight.
Yeah.
If that's the case, we will come on tomorrow and we will have a celebration episode celebrating the WNBA champions like every year. I think we just actually started that last year. So we'll have that a yearly tradition now. One episode for the champions, no matter who it is in the WNBA. But going over some comments, thanks again, Jason D'Amico, for coming through and commenting for Ryan. Sue Bird, a name that will be the apex of excellence for generations to come. I only wish I started watching the WNBA sooner, but I am paying attention now. That's very great right there to see. Getting excited for the season, fellas. Peace.
Yeah, I wish I started watching the WNBA as well sooner, and I wish I was born earlier so I could have saw Sue Bird play through college and play through her career in the WNBA. But from what I remember and some of the highlights I've seen throughout her college career, and of course all of her time in Seattle, she had such a great career. And like I mentioned, I think she won 4 championships in Seattle, had a great career for herself. But I think it's just important to note how many players that she helped along the way to improve their game, and just all the relationships that she made throughout the years at UConn and in Seattle.
Yeah, this will bring tears to some people's eyes. I'll tell you this. The next comment I have coming up, and we can't forget, it's very dangerous to doubt anyone. Okay, anyone, um, particularly in sports. When an athlete gets injured, it's very dangerous because again, you could have moments where you break out in the professional league. You could have moments where you recover and break out in college to finish. You can have moments where you change someone else's life and you inspire them to get into sports because of you overcoming all your injuries. With that said, David Serrano goes, "Thanks for covering Sue in your show. To naysayers of Paige being able to come back from her ACL injury better and stronger, we should remember that 8 games into her freshman season, Sue tore her ACL and her season ended. Sue came back to win 2 NCAA titles and went on a 20-year WNBA career, winning 4 titles, and she now retires at 41 years old. Paige will come back stronger and will get the 2024 #1 pick in the WNBA. I have spoken."
Yeah, I love that comment. That's
Oh
great.
my.
Yeah, and I'm sure Paige Beckers looks up to Sue Bird just like I'm sure a lot of other college athletes do. And I'm sure she might even look at her journey as well. And she might even know about Sue Bird also getting injured. But that definitely is an inspirational story, and it just shows and it gives a lot of motivation to not only Paige Beckers and other players that deal with injury. And it seems like nowadays there's almost too many injuries that goes around the whole entire league. But yeah, I mean, I have total faith in Paige Beckers as well. I think she's going to come back healthy next season, ready to go, and hopefully lead UConn to a national championship.
How about Iva? Iva, make sure that you tell her if she has any more ideas for this podcast. Hey, why don't you email the podcast email or comment on the video if you have any more ideas, Ryan? But I know that we're going to be busy when November rolls around, but we still have some time before November. We have the rest of September and October. So if she has any more ideas, hit us in the inbox. Sue is definition of the word GOAT. Example to follow for young people. She missed almost whole freshman year at UConn with ACL injury. Next year, she could already be in the Hall of Fame. UConn Big East schedule is out. Yep, we know it. And ready for some good games. Another Big East championship.
Yeah, hopefully another Big East championship. I think they'll still hold it down without Paige Beckers. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty incredible. And it's almost not the same story as Paige Beckers, but just how Paige Beckers came onto the scene at UConn and played just above everybody's expectations that were already high enough. And won AP Freshman of the Year and got so many awards. Just had an incredible season, and then now for Paige Beckers to deal with injuries 2 years in a row. So I mean, hopefully Paige can return from those and be the player she once was. But Sue Bird did a lot of other athletes did it. So I'm sure Paige Beckers is going to be motivated. Sure, she's going to come back healthy just like Sue Bird did.
Aces in 3.
It's going to be a close game tonight. I'm really
I mean,
excited to
I
watch
to be
it.
honest with you, I don't want to cut you short. I'll let you finish. I can't ever remember. And I again, I witnessed the Washington Mystics. This was after I became a WNBA fan. I witnessed my own team win it all. Okay. With that said, since I've been watching the WNBA, there may have been more teams back before when you and I were just children growing up. There may have been better teams than this one, but I can't, since I've been watching, I can't ever remember a team that has been stacked with size, talent like this roster. Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and the list goes on. I have them sweeping Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good prediction. I mean, the Chicago Sky were also stacked this season as well, and of course they won it last year. And I think that was a surprise to everybody that they lost to the Connecticut Sun the
Mm-hmm.
series before this, and that's how the Sun got here. The Sun have a really talented roster as well, but the Aces all year, I believed in them. They got a really good coach in Becky Hammond. I know we love her, and like you mentioned, they have such a deep roster.
Yeah.
I think it's a real possibility they do sweep tonight. I'm gonna pick the Aces as well. I think they get it done tonight in Connecticut.
Well, if that's the case, we have a WNBA championship on our hands, Ryan. And if that's the case, we will be right back here tomorrow for our yearly tradition to celebrate the new WNBA champions. Let's see if you're right. It's Phil and Rye on Listen Up.